even the 7th generation.
Let's start driving the GLC EQ, electric GLC, and you can see here, Jonas was filming us today here. You can watch the latest YouTube episode right here on the right side. And when I'm driving slowly, it still works. I mean, it's there to be used while being stationary, you know. And then you can see here, instruments goes over into the large infotainment system and then goes over into the passenger screen. And yeah, I mean, that looks super impressive, definitely. You know, but the thing is here, just watch it. When I start driving a little bit quicker, it should also disappear, that it doesn't distract me. See here, 20 kilometers an hour. Oh, did we trick the system actually? Because it should disappear, right? When we were doing like a dry test, it did disappear. So, because usually they don't allow that the driver could theoretically still keep watching, but maybe it's because Jonas played so much with the screen. So, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's not supposed to be, and it did disappear in an earlier dry test. So, yeah, probably you can trick the system and somehow, I don't know. Yeah, very interesting. So, yeah, Jonas can watch the latest episode while I'm recording then the newer one. That's funny, but yeah. Well, I'm not sure if that's maybe distracting to the viewer or so. So, yeah, maybe let's do some nice background picture or something like that. Yeah, there we go. Or like this. So we want to try different situations here with the GLC electric, and that is city, countryside driving, also motorway, acceleration of course, and at the end of the episode we're going to talk about the consumption and the concise range, rearward range and so on. This vehicle here is equipped with 20-inch wheels. Oh, there's like this manhole cover here. Easily done, very smooth. 20-inch wheels, air suspension and rear axle steering. And this is of course something special if you compare it to the iX3, which has a fantastic base suspension. There, iX3 adaptive suspension later, but no air suspension. Here they go, standard suspension, or then you can directly hop to the air suspension. And this, of course, gives you more flexibility in the ride, so to speak. This is here this augmented reality feature. You don't have to have it, but you could, theoretically. That gives me like the Mercedes internal GPS view then with these augmented arrows right there. With the rear axle steering, you're very flexible also here in slow slalom, for example. I feel that the rear is then moving a little bit, and just easing the car around when you're driving slowly is, I mean, it's so easily done. Maybe I can show you, just drive straight and I can show that to you when I just turn around here, you know. So doing just a U-turn where it's like, I mean, this is like not a small car, and then here you can turn it around. And so, I mean, and then you can watch here in the mirror also sometimes how the rear wheels, here, look at that, augmented reality also with looking underneath and easing these cars around is so easy. And we had that recently also when we go comparing the X3 plug-in hybrid, which we were driving, or which we are driving at this moment, and the GLC, which has the, like a GLC combustion in it, which has the rear axle steering, and getting in and out of the basement garage is just so much easier than with the rear axle steering when you have to, do another maneuver and so on. It's a very silent vehicle, feeling it already in the city. We have the lamination here in the front glass. Not in the rear, but in the front, it's for most cases enough. Bumpy in the road, yeah, that is cool. So the air suspension delivers you great comfort. Seating-wise, as I said, we have here the Artico seats, which are a little bit softer than the animal skin leather. The sport seats with the microfiber are also very good. The microfiber surface is maybe a little bit better than as well, because I feel that the BMW iX3 high-grade leather red, that is a step more in the quality. It's even a little bit softer than this one here, you know. And so probably for the GLC, I would go with the microfiber seat as the sport seat. It also keeps you, in the top part a little bit, more enclosed in the shoulder area. But the sitting area, that is more or less the same from the seating depth. So you can go with both. It's actually no problem. The biggest driving difference between iX3 and this one here is definitely the air suspension, because you have this, when you have these waves in the road, like here, you know, in the city surrounding, it just evens it out in this typical air suspension way, you know, and that is really interesting. Driving modes, I'm glad to have this button still and can also click that through. I don't have to confirm it in the screen. And then in the sport mode, the air suspension is a little bit stiffer. I also have more resistance from the steering wheel. The steering itself has a good grip. Here also with the vegan surface then in this case, which appears a little bit matte. It's not that as greasy as the animal skin could, you know, become after a while. But if you step in this vehicle, no one could tell actually a difference from the feeling so far. And the steering itself, how it reacts, is really precise. I like that. And don't have no dead zone area. And yeah, some more feedback here in the sport mode. Let's check it again. Comfort mode. Yeah. In the comfort mode, steering is lighter. In the sport mode, it gets then a little bit more resistance. And of course, you maybe know my favorite settings. Individual mode, more resistance in the steering, but suspension here, the air suspension, still kept at the comfort level. That is the setup I really like, I really prefer. So this vehicle gives you a very calm feeling while driving, and if you compare it to the GLC combustion engine, I mean, you know that here on our channel, we have always taken a viewer-based, neutral, technology open view to all different drivetrains and presenting like this might be the best solution for, you know, this use case and this use case and so on. But just from the driving, you really have to say this one drives better than the GLC combustion engine. And this is a tough thing to say because the GLC combustion engine is an SUV which is top notch in driving already. But this one here adds another level of calmness and sophistication. And from the technology, yes, you have the extra weight, and that might play a role then when you have like super tight corners or something like that. But the center of gravity is low, and it feels so calm, refined, and sophisticated. It's just really great. Here, by the way, we can test something. Let's go to sport mode, and then we can accelerate here because it shows here 90, and then let's go here from like 40 to 90. Let's go. What? No way. I mean, that was even slightly uphill. And that is also this two-speed system. So you have first gear and second gear, although it's an electric vehicle. And when you do 0 to 100, it stays in that first gear. Usually it would switch to the second gear like 70 kilometers an hour. But if you do like the full acceleration, it keeps the first gear longer. At the same time, you can use the second gear at higher speeds and then have efficiency gains, you know, from this kind of transmission. Wow. And I mean, this is here 4.3 seconds in the acceleration figure, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. One electric motor in the front, one in the rear. Beautiful dolphin statue, or you call it statue. Beautiful design of the roundabout. Spring. Dolphin spring. So 4.3 seconds, and remember the BMW fountain. Yeah, right. Spring is like where the water originally comes from. A dolphin fountain roundabout design. Let's take it that way. So back to the acceleration, 4.3 seconds. The BMW iX3 is at 4.9 seconds. And I mean, sub 5 seconds in the acceleration figure is still fine. You know, everyone can use that. Totally okay. Going back to the comfort mode here. However, here, really explosive power, although this is not like an AMG version. Anyway, what's the AMG version supposed to be of this one here? So really quick due to this transmission system. This is the advantages of the GLC EQ here in comparison to the iX3. Air suspension and also quicker acceleration. Yet again, the battery of the iX3 is 14 kilowatt hours larger and supposed to have then better range. But of course, it always also depends on the efficiency. And we drive this car here today more and more to find out more about a realistic real-world value, and especially when we go to the motorway soon. Here, by the way, also easing in and out of the roundabout. Such a pleasant drive, you know, it's so calm, refined, sophisticated. So this is really, really next level. At the same time, you sit upright. If you, for example, compare it to a Mercedes CLA, if you think, well, hey, I'd rather go like electric sedan, especially like tall people. I mean, Jonas is one of the rare people that's even taller than me. So, but he also sits in a very comfortable way. Although you always think about like, where are his legs supposed to go? You know, like they. Yeah, but I think that's what I write. Oh, the tuk-tuk company or what is that? So enjoying the drive here, and looking forward even more to go to the motorway. But you really have to ask, like, I mean, what else can you do? You know, so the level of sophistication here is really good, and I mean, I can't say anything more positive about this ride, because there's probably everything said which is positive, you know, well, at least like here from the city and the countryside surrounding and so on. Let's see about the recuperation here. Very smooth. Everything is done with recuperation. You don't need the friction brakes actually at all. Let's see. No, you don't go to a B mode with pulling this one down or something, but you can here, whoa, yeah, use the pedals, strong recuperation, normal, no recuperation, and intelligent recuperation. What is this here? For example, it's almost like a cruise control without using the cruise control. Here, the speed is being reduced when the car is in front of me, but when the car goes away, that was not scripted, then when I'm off the throttle, then the car is just rolling. And that is, on the one hand, a good thing. On the other hand, for me personally, for example, I rather like this predictive approach of a vehicle. Means that the car always does the exact very same thing in every moment. And then I rather rely on a fixed recuperation setting, or maybe no, or just a small, normal one. And then I know, hey, it always recuperates in the very same fashion. And you can argue for both systems. It just depends on what you actually prefer then to have as a setting, because efficiency-wise, it makes no difference. When you're on the brake pedal, it will first use the recuperation, and then only if needed, in super, super harsh braking, then it will actually apply the friction brakes. So, wow, really impressed with the driving here. Also, it has, I think one more level also of sophistication in comparison to this MMA, the CLA platform. I mean, it needs to be some kind of difference. So this is a perfect SUV to drive, and doesn't take away anything from the BMW iX3. It feels sportier in the drive, definitely, more direct, you know, and might be a little bit less of the difference when you pick the base suspension here for the GLC EQ, but here with the air suspension, a little bit floatier ride. 20-inch wheels are also a good choice, let's say, in the middle. So both, from driving BMW iX3 and GLC EQ, they are both excellent. So great news that Germany, also here in the EV segment, finally has really striking products again. Can't say it otherwise. But now, even more looking forward to how does this one perform at higher speeds on the motorway. And now the motorway, sport mode and 62-120. Let's go! Oh, that's it. Can't believe that. I mean, this is not an AMG version, but you easily get a Mercedes and an AMG in one with this SUV. This is crazy. Really, really crazy. And how quick that acceleration was. Here then the sport mode, once again, more resistance in the steering wheel and in the suspension. But of course, for longer way, motorway driving, might as well stick to the comfort mode. This is now a really rough tarmac here. Also good test for the rolling noise and so on, but cannot really compare it to other roads. I mean, you see how effed up this road here is on this. I see, I said effed up and then Mercedes. Voice assistant response. That's weirdo. So I think we have to accelerate here out, then they can go on the motorway. Wow, I mean, it's so quickly done. Really crazy stuff, man. And the air suspension, once again, here also, when you have these longer waves on the motorway, gives you so much confidence and comfort. Of course, you might say, hey, you don't want this like waving effect, then you can also put it a little bit stiffer then, or might as well say, hey, I want to save the money and go for the base suspension. Here, lane change, easily done. So, wow, such a great ride. And yes, the tarmac here is very rough at this moment. That's why most of the noise comes from that. But from the wind noise, from the insulation, very silent again. And it was very interesting because Jonas just, off camera just told me like, wow, he also realized how silent the car is. And he said like, Thomas, isn't that on the niveau of a Rolls Royce? And that's something to say, when the cameraman says that. And I really have to agree, like when we were driving through the city surroundings, it's so extremely silent and refined. That's really something indeed. So great motorway vehicle here also from the comfort. Yeah, the only thing is that the seating company, the iX3, is a little bit better. Here then you have the more sophisticated suspension options, so whatever you prefer. And let's also check out the assisted systems. So we can switch between limiter or the really sophisticated cruise control. Keeps the speed. Now it's also keeping the lane. And let's see, we should also be able to introduce here this automated or semi-automated lane change. Yes, I have to hold on to the steering wheel. So, and this is done then by the vehicle, this lane change here. Yeah, the only thing is a little bit tough here is really the tarmac. This is one of the loudest motorway tarmac I have heard, so don't be mistaken when you think now it's loud on the camera. It's a super silent car on the motorway, definitely. It's just that this is one of the worst motorway tarmacs I've experienced. Now here, automated lane change back. No? Doesn't want to do it? There we go. So, yeah. And that's also smooth and done. Then we have a blind spot monitor here in the side mirrors. This crazy tarmac here. There's a red triangle there in the side mirror. So also sophisticated as for the assistance systems. I would maybe say that the iX3 goes a little bit step above that even on the assistance systems. There you can also have this this hands-free on the motorway. It's still level 2, but you can do it hands-free, and the car is also doing the lane changes completely autonomously. So there the iX3 sets, another level of smoothness even on top. Also very interesting to have that. But definitely also very good from the suspension on the motorway, especially considering how destroyed it is. Maybe we should switch to the other side. It looks a little bit better there, so we can get off here and then go to the other side of the motorway and and repeat that once again. Yeah, going off here also in a dynamic way. It feels really nice. Let's do it sport mode once again here with these air suspension. A little bit tighter than in the dampening. This can also go, by the way, a little bit lower on the motorway to increase efficiency. Also works. Wow. And then as soon as you have good tarmac, you feel again how silent and refined that car actually is. Also good how it stays very upright in the corners. So it can feel sporty, but it feels comfortable at the very same time. And what I want to do as well is to even out the consumption just on motorway and then test like 100 and 120 kilometers an hour and give you the results of that one later, because that's also something we have been looking forward to so much.